After action no longer needs motivation, another assumption begins to loosen. Preference, not taste, not discernment. Preference as the internal leaning that tells you what you should want, what fits you best, what says something about who you are. For most of our lives, preference feels inseparable from choice. We believe we choose based on what we like, what we value, what aligns with our identity. Preference helps us feel oriented. It tells us who we are by what we select. I prefer this. I don't prefer that. This is me. That isn't. And for a long time, that framework works. It simplifies decision-making. It gives consistency, creates a sense of self. But when presence becomes the ground, and action no longer needs motivation, preference begins to feel less central. Not wrong, just unnecessary. I noticed this shift when decisions started happening before I had an opinion about them. I would choose, and only afterward notice that there hadn't been any internal debate. No weighing of pros and cons tied to identity. No question of what this choice said about me. Something simply moved, and the choice made sense without needing to be justified. Living without preference doesn't mean you stop noticing differences. You still feel comfort and discomfort, ease and resistance, but those sensations don't organize themselves into a personal hierarchy. You're not ranking experiences based on who they confirm you to be. You're responding to what's needed. Choice without preference feels almost mechanical at first. Not cold, efficient. You see what's in front of you and something responds. There's no internal drama. And because there's no drama, there's no residue. You don't second guess. You don't replay the decision. You don't wonder if you chose right. You chose, and life moves on. This is difficult to trust if you're used to choice as self-expression. We're taught that our preferences define us. What we eat, what we wear, what we believe, what we pursue. So when preference loosens, it can feel like losing definition. Who am I if I don't know what I want? But something else emerges. Responsiveness. Instead of asking, what do I prefer? You notice, what's called for here? That question doesn't reference the self. It references the situation, and situations are clearer than identity. Choice without preference removes friction because it removes internal conflict. Before, decisions often felt heavy because they carried symbolic weight. If I choose this, what does it say about me? If I choose that, what future does it create? What version of myself am I committing to? Those questions create tension. Without preference, choice doesn't need to carry that meaning. It's not a declaration, it's a response. This changes how decisions feel in the body. Before, you may have felt tightness, hesitation, a pull in opposite directions. Now choice feels clean. You see an opening. You move, or you don't, and both are fine. Living without preference doesn't make you passive. It makes you accurate. You're not forcing alignment with an image. You're aligning with reality. This becomes especially noticeable in everyday decisions. What to eat, what to say, where to go next. These choices stop feeling personal. Not because you don't care, because they don't need to reinforce anything. You're not crafting a self through selection. You're navigating life. This often brings relief. So much energy was spent trying to choose correctly, trying to optimize, trying to pick the best option for who you thought you were becoming. Without preference, there is no optimal self to serve. There is only this moment, and this moment doesn't ask for optimization. It asks for response. Living without preference also changes how you relate to regret. Regret usually assumes you should have preferred differently. If I had chosen what I really wanted, but when preference isn't organizing choice, regret loses its footing. You see that the choice arose from the conditions that were present. You responded, and now conditions are different. There's no need to punish yourself for not choosing from a future perspective you didn't have access to at the time. This brings a lot of kindness into decision-making. You're not judging past choices by present awareness. You're allowing them to be complete. Choice without preference also affects how you relate to others' decisions. Before, you might have felt confused or threatened when someone chose differently than you would. Now, difference doesn't require explanation. You don't need to agree. You don't need to understand their preference. You recognize that choice arises from many factors, and those factors don't need to align. This creates space, less comparison, less defensiveness, more room for coexistence. Living without preference also softens conflict. Before, conflict often involved defending choices, explaining why you wanted what you wanted, justifying your position. Now, conflict becomes simpler. You state what's happening. You state what you're doing. There's no argument about preference, no attempt to convince. You're not protecting an identity. You're responding to the situation. This doesn't make conflict disappear. It makes it cleaner. Living without preference also changes how you experience desire. Desire still arises, but it doesn't dominate. You don't organize your life around it. You don't suppress it either. You notice it. Sometimes you act on it. Sometimes you don't. There's no internal authority saying desire must be honored or resisted. It's just information. This makes desire lighter, less consuming, less dramatic. You enjoy it when it's there. You let it pass when it's not. This is very different from a life driven by preference. Preference demands satisfaction. Desire without preference does not. Choice without preference also changes how you relate to values. Values don't disappear, but they're no longer rigid. They don't dictate every decision. They inform. You respond in ways that feel coherent without constantly checking alignment. You're not consulting a rulebook. You're present, and presence is responsive. This stage can feel unsettling if you're used to knowing yourself through preference. You might notice moments of blankness, not confusion, blankness. You don't immediately know what you want, and instead of filling that gap, you wait. And often, something moves. Choice happens without being premeditated. This waiting isn't indecision. It's openness. You're not forcing a choice to relieve discomfort. You're allowing clarity to arise. And clarity here isn't conceptual. It's somatic. You feel when it's time to move. Living without preference also changes how you relate to freedom. Freedom used to mean having unlimited options and choosing what you wanted. Now, freedom feels like not needing to want anything specific. You're not constrained by desire. You're not constrained by aversion. You're free to respond. That kind of freedom is quiet. It doesn't announce itself, but it's deeply stabilizing because you're not being pulled apart by internal forces. You're whole. Choice without preference doesn't make life dull. It makes it fluid. You're not clinging to outcomes. You're not defending positions. You're moving with what's happening. This stage often reveals how much effort went into maintaining preference, protecting it, explaining it, justifying it. Without that effort, energy returns, not as excitement, as steadiness. You're not split between what you want and what's happening. They're not in conflict. You're here, responding. Season 3 is about living from what remains after the inner architecture quiets. Presence remains. Action remains. Choice remains. But preference, as identity glue, is no longer required. You don't need to know yourself in advance to move honestly. You discover yourself in response. That discovery isn't fixed. It changes. And that's not a problem. If you've noticed yourself less invested in what you like or dislike, if decisions feel simpler without being careless, if choice feels more like movement than deliberation, you're not losing yourself. You're releasing a structure you no longer need. And in that release, life becomes easier to meet. Not because it's predictable, because you're not negotiating with yourself before responding. And if this reflection met something real in you, liking the video helps it reach others who may be noticing the same simplicity without having language for it. If someone came to mind while listening, sharing it may help them feel less alone in this quieter way of choosing. You're welcome to subscribe if you'd like to continue through this season, not to refine preference, but to notice how life chooses when you stop insisting on wanting, unfinished, and moving.